We're starting with WWE, and the feud between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre has been a highlight of 2024, as the two men have held nothing back in their efforts to get to each other. In a new video that he recorded while working out at home, Drew McIntyre said there will be a violent reaction to every action, referring to his beatdown on Punk from last week. Drew also questioned why a dumb like CM Punk would go into business for himself at Clash at the Castle, costing him the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in Glasgow. It's interesting that Drew used that particular word, as Punk called Hangman Page a dumb during his All Out 2022 rant, which would forever derail his AEW career. At the end of the video, McIntyre showed off a bracelet he took from CM Punk. The bracelet says AJ and Larry, referring to Punk's wife AJ Mendez, formerly AJ Lee, and his dog Larry. McIntyre showed the bracelet on this week's Raw, which immediately had fans hoping to see AJ return, a hope that has persisted pretty much since her WWE exit in 2015. According to a source within WWE, there has been speculation backstage that WWE will bring in AJ for the pair's SummerSlam feud, but it's unlikely that she'll wrestle. The current rumor is that she'll simply be there to support her husband in a role similar to Brandy Rhodes during Cody's road to WrestleMania 40. These are currently rumors and speculation within WWE and may not be the final plan, but whatever the case, expect this feud to continue to get more personal in the coming weeks. As we previously reported, Ludwig Kaiser suffered an injury during his Raw match with Braun Breaker and was seen favoring his arm and side after a suplex. Sadly, Kaiser wasn't the only star injured on Raw, as Sheamus interfered in the match to attack Kaiser and further their feud, but received a spear from Breaker for his troubles. In a post from WWE on social media, it said that Sheamus was also banged up after Braun's attack and was seen limping backstage and holding onto his ribs, grimacing in pain. Sheamus hasn't competed at WWE live events since Raw, and we'll continue to monitor this situation for further updates. We've got Shane McMahon news now, as it was recently reported that the prodigal son of WWE has an interest in joining the competition in AEW. This all began when JR said on his podcast not to count out the idea, and Conrad Thompson added that he'd heard from AEW sources that Shane has brought up joining. While speaking to Sports Illustrated, AEW president Tony Khan reiterated that he's never interacted with McMahon, but said Shane is welcome to join AEW. I heard the rumor he might be interested. I've never met Shane, but we have a lot of mutual friends. I have a lot of respect for him as an executive and a professional wrestler. Shane is always welcome in AEW. At this point, it appears highly unlikely that Shane McMahon will ever make his way to AEW, but as Tony Khan has clearly left the door open for a potential debut, anything can happen. Do you still feel there's a possibility of Shane McMahon debuting in AEW? Let us know in the comments section below. This weekend, AEW will host its next Forbidden Door event alongside New Japan and other promotions, and this year's show will be the first to feature Mercedes Mone. The TBS champion will take on New Japan Strong Women's champion Stephanie Vacker in a winner-takes-all match, but fans will get to see the CEO before then. During this week's Dynamite, Moné appeared in a backstage segment to hype her upcoming match, as well as Vacker's upcoming match on this Saturday's AEW Collision. Moné also announced that she would be ringside watching Vacker's match, meaning that this would be her first time on Collision since coming to AEW. Vacker and Moné recently appeared at a CMLL show and traded verbal barbs and had a brief brawl, and history may repeat itself this Saturday on Collision. It was back in March that Mercedes Mone made her arrival for AEW, and she's been one of the most prominently featured stars with the company ever since. Since joining AEW though, Moné has had just 3 matches for the company, but AEW president Tony Khan has been very pleased with what he's seen so far. Speaking to Sports Illustrated, Khan praised Mercedes as one of the most significant free agent signings in wrestling history, and is thrilled she's a part of the AEW roster. As for the title-for-title match, Khan said the bout will be incredible, thanks in part to the significant signing who arrived in the company at Big Business. Mercedes Mone was a huge star long before she joined AEW, and the company is treating her as exactly that, and regardless of the outcome this weekend, expect the spotlight to stay on her. But what do you make of Khan's comments? Is Moné indeed one of the most significant signings ever? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Over to Dynamite, and in the Owen Hart Cup, Jay White was able to advance to the semifinals with a win over Rey Fenix in a match that saw both men's factions kept away from ringside. Switchblade scored a clean win with the Blade Runner to advance, and he will face the winner of the Jeff Jarrett vs. Wildcard entrant match that'll happen soon. On the other side of things, Pac defeated Claudio Castagnoli last week to advance to the semis, and he'll face the winner of the Bryan Danielson-Shingo Takagi match at Forbidden Door. On Dynamite, the Young Bucks announced that the wildcard entrant in the Owen Hart tournament will bring the AEW World title back to the Elite in a bold claim from the EVPs. Given that this entry will be an ally of the Bucks, some have speculated that it could mark the return of Hangman Adam Page, as the Cowboy has been absent since Revolution in March. In an update, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful said that Page has been out of action for contractually obligated personal reasons, and his hiatus is not due to an injury. The specific reasons for Page's absence were not disclosed, and it was noted that AEW was always aware he'd be making his return by late June or early July. That time frame certainly suggests that Page could be the wild card, but creative plans could always change, and it's not guaranteed that he'll be part of the tournament. It should also be pointed out that the wild card match with Jeff Jarrett will take place in Chicago, the home of CM Punk, someone who had issues with Page during his AEW run. If AEW intends to bring Page back as a heel, then Chicago could be the ideal place, as fans will remember the real-life tensions between the Cowboy and the Second City Savior. Page was discussed for the tournament at a time, and it's possible he'll return in time, and we'll just have to wait and see what Tony Khan does next to excite the AEW fans. Now, Jonathan Coachman was with WWE for years and did various roles from commentator to authority figure, and would return to the company in January 2018. Coachman would leave the company for the second time in 2021, an act that also saw him part ways with the XFL, but now the coach is open to a return. Speaking on the Angle podcast, Coachman reflected on his career in WWE and made clear he'd be willing to return, albeit under the right circumstances. He said, "I would be open to going back now, but I'd never go back and sit in the commentary chair and be a straightforward announcer. That's not who I am. That's not the best version of myself. I know exactly what I'd want to do. I do not want to go back and sit at the three-person table with Michael Cole and Corey Graves. I have no desire to do that. I would do a two-person commentary team, but in reality, what am I best at? There's a lot of talent that no matter how much they practice, how much they try, they will never be as good on the microphone, and to me, mic work is as important as in-ring work. Where I could help the most is being a sidekick to somebody, being a manager to somebody, putting together a group of people and leading them." This is quite the turnaround for Coach, who said in November 2023 that he'd never return to WWE after how he was treated during his second run with the company. With that said, it should be pointed out that a lot has changed since then, including the departure of Vince McMahon, which this time is seemingly for good. In this new era, we know to never say never when it comes to WWE, but would you like to see the coach make a return, possibly as a manager? Give your thoughts in the comments. It's been close to 2 years since Dakota Kai officially joined the main roster, but since then, she's not had the best time when it comes to singles opportunities. Kai hasn't wrestled a singles match on Raw since the May 13th show, which ended in a DQ, and her only Raw match in June saw her lose in a tag team match. On Twitch, Kai shared an emotional plea to WWE, banging her desk and saying that she's hoping to prove she can hang as a singles superstar, especially at a PLE. She said, "I've never had an opportunity as a singles competitor on a PLE. I'm not talking about NXT. You know what I mean? I'm getting like, you know that feeling where you're like," bangs the desk, "give me an opportunity please, anything. I'm crying. I'm crying because I'm so emotional about this. No, it's my allergies. I'm not actually crying, but seriously, come on now, get behind me, bro." While Kai blamed her tears on allergies, there was no denying her real emotions, and fans also saw her concern and started bringing up Triple H in the comments. Kai will have a chance to prove herself next week when she competes in a women's Money in the Bank ladder match qualifier, which will see her face Zoe Stark and Ivy Nile. A victory on Raw will send Dakota Kai to the all-important match on July 6th, and a win on that night will propel Kai to the singles spotlight the Kiwi superstar is hungry for. More from Dynamite as MJF opened the show by playing into the crowd in Buffalo, but hardly spoke a sentence before Daniel Garcia interrupted to thank him for last week's save. Garcia did add that MJF got in his business and recalled losing to MJF, saying it was embarrassing but led to the best run of his career. The two men kept things semi-friendly while making it clear they are not friends just because they have enemies, and MJF threw out the challenge for a match at All In. Will Ospreay came out before an answer could be given and offered Garcia an international title match for next week, which Red Death agreed to. Before leaving, Ospreay stared daggers at MJF, who seemed to rescind his all-in offer and walked away, evidently unhappy about being upstaged. This was decent, but took too long to get to the point, but at least has fans intrigued as to what'll happen at All In this August. If you've liked what you've seen so far, please consider hitting the like button. Shingo Takagi, Titan, and Hiromu Takahashi represented NJPW's Los Ingobernables de Japón against Jon Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio Castagnoli, with Bryan Danielson on commentary. It was only after a commercial break that Moxley got involved, and in a somewhat weird turn, Moxley got his team intentionally DQ'd by introducing a chair. Tetsuya Naito's music hit, and he came out to confront Moxley ahead of their match on Sunday, and the two brawled on the ramp until they were off screen. This match had a lot of great individual moments, but the way it ended took the wind out of its sails, and a Danielson-Takagi face-off proved anticlimactic as Bryan stood there while his ally was being attacked. On last week's Collision, Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, and Hook challenged Chris Jericho, Big Bill, and Brian Keith for Forbidden Door in what would no doubt be an exciting trios match. During Dynamite, Keith's arm was in a sling and it was clear that Keith would not be able to compete, but Jericho queued up a video message to reveal his replacement. Minoru Suzuki was shown on the video screen, but Suzuki instantly turned on Jericho, saying that he did not want anything to do with the learning tree. Instead, Suzuki challenged him to an FTW title match, and this was followed by Joe, Hook, and Shibata coming out to confront the heels. The two teams brawled, and at least according to AEW's social media, the trios match is still on for Forbidden Door, though Jericho is still in need of a third man. In February of this year, Matt Camp was let go by WWE, which came as a surprise to fans as he had been a regular on the bump before then, and there had been no signs he'd be cut. On the most recent video from his The Wrestling Matt YouTube channel, Camp discussed his exit from WWE and why he's frustrated with how things went down. He said, "WWE did not put any announcement out, I just disappeared. I disappeared off the bump, I disappeared off the shows, they made no mention of it, which admittedly I thought was pretty shitty. And I'm not asking for a future endeavors thing or anything like that, but you know, that tells you what family means when you work for a company. That doesn't mean shit. You're a number, and that's what I was. And I understand that, but that whole family and we're family, it's total horseshit." Camp also recalled that shortly before his release, TKO's The Rock showed up to talk about how WWE is a family, but this family was fine with unceremoniously cutting Camp. He explained, "I had 3 weeks prior to my release, The Rock show up at headquarters and tell me what a big family this is and shaking hands, we're so happy to have you all aboard. Went through these town hall meetings after a bunch of cuts happened, and it was like, you're still here for a reason. Then you're gone. And people get let go, that's part of the business, I get that, but that whole family bullshit, and Rock's like, let's take a picture with everybody in it because I want to show that I was here. I'm in that picture, and then I'm not here a couple of weeks later. It's all who's making the money, what's the bottom line?" It remains to be seen what's next for Matt and if a new role in wrestling is waiting for him, but for now, don't expect a return to WWE anytime soon. But what do you make of his comments? Does he have a valid point, or are these the words of a disgruntled ex-employee and nothing more? Share your thoughts in the comments. It was recently reported that Mace and Mansoor were spotted backstage at AEW Collision, and while they weren't used on the show, that may be the plan down the line. Fightful Select reports that in addition to Collision, Mansoor was backstage at the Dynamite tapings in LA, and the tag team have been in talks with AEW and ROH in recent weeks. While AEW sources have said that nothing is confirmed, the two have been considered for appearances on the ROH brand, though no deal has been signed at this time. With that said, materials have been prepared ahead of their potential involvement with ROH, and there's no shortage of fans who'd love to see them receive an opportunity like this. The models proved to be a hilarious duo in WWE, and now could be set to take ROH by storm, and stay tuned for more updates on this evolving story. In recent years, Gabbi Tuft has spoken of plans to return to the world of professional wrestling, and now the former WWE superstar has made an in-ring return after nearly a decade away. Tuft was part of the West Coast Pro event Killin' Them Softly on June 25th, and on Twitter shared a clip from the match in question. Tuft was grateful to West Coast Pro and United Wrestling for the opportunity, and said that a thrilling 19-minute match took place against J-Rod, which earned "This is awesome" chants. The ex-superstar also cut a promo after the match, which was well received by the fans in attendance, and perhaps we'll see more of Gabbi Tuft in the ring after this comeback. We've got an update in the Nick Hogan case, as the son of Hulk was part of an incident on November 18th last year that saw him once again run afoul of the law. According to reports at the time, Nick was driving his 2021 Dodge Ram when he approached the traffic stop in the median lane after attending a bikini contest at his father's restaurant. Despite being instructed to pull over by law enforcement, Nick continued driving at 51 miles per hour in a 40 zone, and officers pursued him and eventually managed to stop him. Due to changing his plea, this case won't go to trial, and instead he was fined $136 and ordered to attend a 12-hour advanced driving instruction class to avoid losing his license. Should he finish the class, this case will be closed and his license will not be suspended, and according to the Tampa Bay Times, Nick Hogan said to the court, "I'm very sorry for all of this going on. I never wanted to be in this position again." Hogan may seek early release from probation after 6 months, during which he'll be subject to a continuous alcohol monitoring system for the initial 120 days. After this, he will undergo regular alcohol and drug screenings through urine tests, and he'll have to pay fines totaling over $1,000 as part of the sentencing. Hogan will not see any time behind bars as long as he keeps his nose clean, as any more offenses during his probation period could result in jail time for the reality TV star. We certainly hope Nick Hogan doesn't land himself in more trouble in the future. And do you feel this was the expected outcome of this case? Let us know below. Before he entered the world of wrestling, Matt Riddle was an MMA fighter, and with his WWE career officially in the past, fans have been wondering if a return to the cage is possible. Speaking to Muscle Man Malcolm, Riddle was asked about a return to the MMA and revealed that he's spoken to several people who run promotions, including Combat Jiu-Jitsu. Riddle feels that he will likely participate in these sooner rather than later, but it's a matter of timing as he remains highly in demand in wrestling, receiving frequent bookings. The former US champion acknowledged the risks of injury and the sometimes smaller paydays associated with combat sports, which is why he made clear he's weighing his options. Riddle added that wrestling still offers him the best opportunities, including a good payday and meet and greet events, but plans to return to the ring or the cage in 2024 or early 2025. It remains to be seen if the cage is in Riddle's future, but the original bro did surprise people by competing at a recent birthday party, and seemed to be happy there. If nothing else, Riddle will have at least been able to enjoy some birthday cake, and time will tell what the future holds for the original bro and whether an MMA return takes place. Now, Liv Morgan is hell-bent on taking all she can from Rhea Ripley, and that includes Dominik Mysterio, and she's hardly been subtle in her attempts to win him over. During this week's Raw, Morgan shared a segment with her next challenger, Zelina Vega, who called Dominik sloppy seconds, a term the women's world champ is taking in stride. Sharing a photo from the segment that demonstrates the height difference between them, Morgan said Vega always looks up to her while she looks down on her challenger. Morgan added that if Dominik is sloppy seconds, given that Rhea Ripley was with him first, then she will gladly take third, fourth, fifth, and sixth portions of him. Morgan vs. Vega will take place on next week's Raw, and while Dominik has said he wants to help Vega win the title, expect Liv to have a trick or two up her sleeve in the title match. For decades, Randy Orton has leveled opponents with an RKO out of nowhere, but in recent weeks, Tommaso Ciampa has been trying to hit the iconic finisher on the man himself. Ciampa tried to hit the move on Orton at the ringside area last week, only for the Viper to dodge and take a call, and now the Blackheart's second attempt was in vain. On Twitter, Johnny Gargano shared a clip of Ciampa's second try, this time in catering, where he felt that Randy would be most likely to have his guard down. When Ciampa went for the move though, Orton, oblivious to what was being attempted, moved at the last minute, with the NXT alum landing back first onto a table. Zack Sabre Jr. got a win over Kyle O'Reilly on Dynamite in a beautiful display of pure technical ability, and hopefully not the last time we see these two work together in AEW. In six-woman action, Mariah May was involved in an unfortunate incident when she teamed with Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa to face Saraya, Harley Cameron, and Anna Jay. Shirakawa got the win for her team after hitting Cameron with a Mina driver, and after that, May tried to ease the tensions between her two friends. Not even champagne and raising a toast could settle things though, and soon after, May and Storm were talking when Mina accidentally busted the bottle on her friend's head. Both Mina and Storm were stunned as medical personnel tended to Mariah and were intrigued to see whose side she takes in the upcoming title match at Forbidden Door. The "can they coexist" trope was on full display in this week's main event when Forbidden Door opponents Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland faced Khan and Toa Liona. Ospreay and Khan began with a great exchange, and Will and Strickland displayed some good teamwork early in the match until a miscommunication led to Liona taking both men down. This match gave Ospreay and Strickland a chance to show off ahead of Forbidden Door, and even an accidental superkick by Ospreay onto Swerve didn't stop them from getting the win. Ospreay took the world title out of Strickland's hands, and the champ kicked his knee out before knocking him out with a kick to the face. The show ended with the champ standing tall. And that was this week's Dynamite, which spent plenty of time selling Forbidden Door, but included solid matches and non-wrestling segments. The main event tag was a great way to push Ospreay vs. Strickland, but nothing could compare to Sabre vs. O'Reilly in terms of match quality. Storm and Shirakawa went from friendly rivalry to a full-blown feud, and a couple more matches were added to the pay-per-view card, in addition to advancements in the Owen Hart tournament. Forbidden Door has some potential bangers on the card, and hopefully AEW, CMLL, Stardom, and New Japan Pro Wrestling stick the landing. Why Triple H and Bruce Pritchard warned Wyatt Six and Uncle Howdy. Also, major Jacob Fatu footage leaked. If you'd like to know more about this story and more, please check in the end screen here or click in the link in the description field. Thanks for watching.